developing our class format. We start with something creative. So today we're going to start with a creative word about learning in the yeshiva, where we're sitting right now. And so in honor of Rebbe Kalonimus Shapira, the PSS Rebbe, the Warsaw Ghetto Rebbe, here it goes. Stay in the zone. Bark at the world like a soul trombone. We got to stay in the zone. Keep the order, mining of the teaching, steady digging deeper while the wolf pack is screeching. Distraction, attraction, false satisfaction. Knock so warrior out of action. Steady living, Torah driven. Punch the clock from 9 to 9 in my job learn. Not just breathe, steady Torah rocking in the storm and the breeze. Phone ring, tweet alert, vital like a smurf. We're in the sky, brother, brought down to earth. Break dirt, plant what most can't see. Eyes down, walk tall, providential, lucky. Dog pack chases down the street. Nah, pit bull snooze, quiet at her feet. Stay in the zone. Bark at the world like a soul trombone. We got to stay in the zone. They have to imagine that with some music and a little bit more groove. But I don't think I can bring in like a boombox into the Beit Midrash and do it. Yeah, if I was like Nissim Black or something like that, it would work. But I don't think they're going to let me do that here. So anyway, so that's just to break up our get some creative energy flowing. And so I want to just quickly review to give us where we came from and where we're going to go. So we learned some very important points up to this point. And one of them is that you're each responsible for connecting yourself to Hashem. Every time it can be excuses. If this had happened, if I had been this person, if I had this background, or if this hadn't happened to me. We have dugmas, we have examples of Hillel was so poor and Rebbe was rich. And every example you can think of, there's some genius spiritual giant that through it all was with Torah. Rav Mordechai Eliyahu had a difficult background, an orphan, not a lot of money. I think it even says that the Torah giants come from people that have, from low means, from poor, because it's less distractions. I mean, to a certain extent, and so it's just about getting into the Torah. So we're responsible for ourselves. 2, we each have our own Torah and our own special mission that no one else has. And no one else can do. And our decisions in this world affect all the spiritual universes, from all the way above back to all the way below. And part of our soul is completely untouchable, completely holy. And this is really our essence of who we are. Our animating soul, however, called our nefesh, which gives life to our body, it needs stimulation. It can become attached to the secular stimulants of this world, such that the holy can then seem mundane. So we need to re-stimulate our animating souls to be engaged and excited in the holy. Now I'm talking, like I said, we said last time, preaching to the choir, but we all have moments of our ups and downs. And so we're going to learn about this in a very deep way today, please God, about our underlying soul and how to bring this to a higher level. So now, why? Why is it so important to be excited in our holy work? Okay, I'm doing everything I have to do. Buy the book. I'm doing perfect. I'm learning all day. I'm doing all my mitzvahs. I get an A+. But the crucial element is if your soul's in it or not. If your soul's in it, it's a totally different thing than if it's going through the motions. So why is it so important to get the soul in it? The Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the Kabbalist, the great Kabbalist, in his book, Mesilat Yesharim, Paths of the Just, he wrote, man was created for reveling in the eternal and delighting in the splendor of the divine presence. I say again, man was created for reveling in the eternal and delighting in the splendor of the divine presence. And of course, it's not instant. It's not instant coffee. It's not you pay $50, you get in, and all of a sudden, wow, it's not lights and whistles, and it's hard work, and it's long-term, because anything that's good, the long-term joy comes from long, dedicated work. I was talking to my Rav about this subject, and he said, a tzaddik drinking a cup of water has more enjoyment, makes a blessing, and drinking that cup of water has more enjoyment, let's say, like the richest guy with the table laid out with like the most luxurious foods, the incredible millionaire, trillionaire. It's not even the same thing. It's two totally different things. And so the joy of the holy, when one digs down and gets to it, it's like nothing else. It's not from this world. It's not like something else in this world. It's not from this world. So, how do we get there? How do we get to this point where our souls are animated and we're on fire? We're on fire for the Kodesh. Eish Kodesh, the name of the book. How are we on fire for the Kodesh? It's via, in large part, via refining our midot, our character traits. Midot, the word in Hebrew, means measurement as well as character traits. So basically, our midot are a measurement of where we're at spiritually. And the pure and the more refined we are, then the more we experience the goodness, which is our real foundation. And that's the ultimate joy that the Ramchal is referring to extent in this world, but saved also for the coming world. So what is the relation of the Torah to our character traits? The main intention of the Torah, with all the mitzvot, is to train a person to improve his character traits. This is written by our Hachamim, by our sages in Vayikra Rabbah, and the Baal Shem Tov, who is the founder, as it were, who brought down the concept of Hasidut, which is pretty much permeated throughout all of Judaism to a certain extent. This is about 260 years ago. And he said like this: the main purpose of our creation in this world is to refine our negative natural tendencies and traits. So this idea of working on ourselves, which sounds very, today modern parlance can sound a bit fluffy. I'm working on myself and this and that and the other. But it's really, at the end of the day, the whole point of the Torah, the whole point of what we're doing in the yeshiva is not just to learn Torah, to get knowledge. It's to transform myself to be this a glowing, pure being where my inner goodness is revealed in everything I say and do, in my face, and every interaction I have in this world. Questions, comments, concerns? So now we're going to get into some details, and really practical details. We've been talking a lot about sort of the big picture. Now we're going to try to get more specific. So the Admor in his book, Chovat Ha-Talmidim, the obligation of the students, was writing to the youth of his generation, the students of his generation. But the things that he was teaching are applicable to all of us, all students, and every single Jew who wants to improve himself in his Avodat Hashem. So this is and I think here's some very important novelties, chidushim, that for me, when I review them, I remind myself, and it strengthens me. So one of the things that we have to, first of all, before you try and address something, you need to analyze where I'm at, where are my character traits at, where am I doing well, where do I need improvement. So normally what happens is someone blows up. Oh man, I got angry, I went crazy, I was yelling, da-da-da. They sit down, they start thinking about, I got to fix this, I got to fix that. He says, no, that's not the time. The time is when you're actually having a beautiful spiritual elevation. You've done some great chesed, and that wave of light fills you, and you're feeling goodness, or a great tefillah, a great prayer, or a great learning. And at that moment, he said, that's the time that you go and check yourself and think about where you're standing. And he says it's similar to like searching for chametz, the leaven on Passover, on Pesach. Is that, how do we do it? We take the light of the Ner and we go and look in the nooks and crannies. So it says that light shining, that's going to help us then really analyze ourselves and see where we're at. And now the next trick is, a lot of times we think about things and it stays in the level of a thought, maybe a list. But he says at that moment, you have to connect the idea, the desire. I want to be better at this, and this is how I'm going to do it. At that moment, you have to take a step and do something physically. You have to do something to make it come down into fruition, because we have different elements of our soul in our body. And so if it's up at a certain level, we want to bring it down to that level of the nefesh, that animating soul that's throughout our whole body. And then once we connect it, then that's that wholeness that we're talking about, when we're connecting ourselves to the desire and bring it to fruition. And that's part of taking back our nefesh, that myself personally, as someone who was, for most of my life, not in the holy, learning holy and being attached to the Kedusha. And so it's very much attached to excitement, enjoyment from other things. So that part of like taking it back, we have to, at those moments of excitement and that desire, then we connect it. And there's kind of like reprogramming its brain, as it were. So this is something I saw in the spiritual journal of the Admor that I thought was very powerful. He said, would a drowning person console himself with his desire to rescue his life? No. What's the use if he doesn't act to save himself? So to a certain extent, different levels of drowning, but everyone to a certain extent is hidden, and so we're to a certain extent drowning, and so we need to pull ourselves out. So the next step we're going to talk about is this process of refining and midot, our character traits, which I'm going to reiterate is brought down as really the point of the Torah. Is faith in ourselves in the process. The Admor says that Emunah is the foundation of everything. Faith is the foundation of everything. Every morning we get up, what do we say? Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechazarti bi nishmati bechemla rabba emunatecha. What's that mean in English? I thank you, living and eternal King, for you have returned my soul within me with compassion. Abundant is your faithfulness. Hashem has faith in me every single morning. He recreates me. Really, every single second of the day, He recreates me. Every second of my life means that I can overcome any challenge in my path. This is a cloud of our Torah. And nothing put in front of you, you can't overcome. So now how hard it may be to change and improve, I can do it. This is a law of spiritual nature. Okay? So anyone think of whatever maybe their difficulty, their hurdle. We can think in general about addictions and all kinds of things. When people say, I am, the number one rule is say, I'm not my addiction. And it's the same thing. Our negative character traits, I'm not this negativity. I'm this kind of person. That's how I grew up, to a certain extent, saying, I'm this kind of guy. Okay, what are you going to do? I'm this kind of guy. So I need to find some person who can put up with me because I'm this kind of guy. Not like I have to fix me. That's who I am. It's not true. That's one of the lies of secular society. Anything can be changed within nature and above nature. So the Admor says to speak about Emunah with other spiritual seekers. Why? Because the more someone brings it out in speech, which is using their ruach as another element of their soul, it also brings it more to fruition and brings it more alive before them. Talk about God filling the world. And so I don't know if you guys were here. Rabbi Gon was speaking in one of his, our Rosh Hashiva was speaking in one of his Devar Torahs here. And it was very funny. I think it touches on this. He said, have you ever been driving and you see someone with a bumper sticker that says, Ein od milvado? There's none but God. Ein od milvado. There's only God. This is very high level, there's only God. And then all of a sudden, someone cuts that person off and it's like, beep, beep, beep. Hey, what are you doing? And Rabbi Gon said, with his classic smile and laugh, he says, wait a second. I thought there's Ein od milvado. So what are you getting? If there's Ein od milvado, there's no such thing as anger. It's all from God. It's all godliness, and everything that happens is it's a higher level. That's one of the highest levels of being. So he says, if you have an Ein od milvado sticker, you got to be on a very high level. So what happens? How can it be if it's really true? Ein od milvado, and all different levels of that. But what happens when we can't see godliness? When we get bogged down in our negative traits that are plaguing us, as it were. We're now talking about the plagues in Egypt. And we remind ourselves we're always leaving Egypt. So we carry within us a bit of Egypt inside of us. So the plagues are sort of still around. Not the plagues, but what we had inside of Egypt. And so what is this fog over our eyes? What is this the lack of clarity of seeing the actual truth of what's going on beneath reality? So I want to bring this idea that I read on Parsha Bo from the Nitivat Shalom, the Rebbe Meislonen. And he asked a question. Moshe Rabbeinu reached up with his hands to bring down the darkness, the plague of darkness. And it says from our Ha-Talmidim, our sages, in the Midrash, that this darkness came from the upper worlds. And so the Rebbe asked, how can there be darkness in the upper worlds? The upper worlds is light. How can there be darkness in the upper worlds? And so what's the answer? It's actually a higher light. But what happens? That down below, it's too much light, so someone's blinded, and it looks like darkness. So it's like if you stare at the sun, and all of a sudden, it's like you have like this darkness because it's too much. So it's the same idea. So then, what happened to the children of Israel? This was I never heard this before. What happened to the children of Israel when we left Mitzrayim, and then for 3 days we couldn't find water, and then people started getting a bit complaining, and understandably, if it's literal. But from a drash standpoint, from a standpoint of explanation, the Rebbe Meslonin brings this. He says in the second Avodah Zarah, what's it say? It says, "Ein mayim ela Torah." They had 3 days without Torah, and after 3 days without Torah, and then when they finally came to the water, what's it called? Mei Merivah, the bitter waters. 3 days without water, they come to the water, and the water's bitter. He says it's not water, it's all a mashal. To a certain extent, there's different levels of Torah, but he says basically 3 days without Torah, and so then they came to Torah, and it was bitter to them. And why do we say on Mondays and Thursdays we read the Torah? So the Jew should never be 3 days without hearing Torah. We learn it from this. So the world, in instance, is burying light because we're not strong. We need to have strength in our vessel to see the light in the world. I have more on that, but maybe we'll see how time. So the Rebbe writes that Moore writes, Rebbe Shapira writes, one's soul sees those things that are beyond one's natural comprehension. It's just that the soul is hidden from him. The more one applies his mind to those subjects that are seemingly beyond him, the more he gets his soul accustomed to revealing itself in that which it sees, the truth of these matters, and then he sees the real truth as well. So basically, we need to see with our soul. And so the more that it's in front of us, the more we're applying to it, the more we put our soul into it. We talked earlier, we go through the motions, it's on a sort of an intellectual level. But the more we put our soul into it, then we can actually comprehend things that are even beyond our ability at that moment to comprehend. So that kind of sums up the idea of the foundation of all is our faith. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is about being energetic and not lethargic. So now the Rabbi is going to, the Moor is going to give us some very specific lessons for how to get out of sort of that, if we ever get caught up in that, it's hard to motivate, it's hard to get ourselves moving. So I'm just going to get some really practical stuff here. So he says, envision and plan your structured day ahead of time. And it's very important, he talks a lot about like going to bed at night and getting up the next day. He says, before you go to sleep, have it mamash fixed, what time you're getting up, where you're praying, have all your clothes ready, and have yourself focused in on what's going to happen in the morning. He says, give yourself a pep talk before you go to sleep. He says, if you go to sleep with no sense of responsibility and lacking simcha, joy, then when you wake up, you'll also be apathetic and lacking joy. So you have to look forward to your next day, and thank God we're studying the yeshiva. So you have to look forward to immersing yourself in prayer, in the Torah, and sometimes, to be honest, you're not there. It's hard to be in that place where you can get yourself organized. It's sort of technical, but to get yourself in this level of joy, and tomorrow I can't wait to hear the novelties that will be coming down and study the Torah. He said one of the things you can learn is fake it till you make it. And in Pesachim, Masechet Pechasim, it says, Le'olam ya'asok adam b'torah u'b'mitzvot af al pi shelo lishma, shebetoch shelo lishma ba lishma. Even if that moment you're not doing for the sake of Hashem, you're not doing for the sake of Shemayim, the highest levels, we're doing things for the sake of doing it for God. If we're not at that level, and we're not at the level of being besimcha in our Torah and our mitzvot. One of the things very important, mitzvah gadola, diot besimcha. It's a klal gadol, diot besimcha. It's a great underlying principle of our whole Torah and every single mitzvah we do. And there's a learning that if you're doing something without simcha, then your soul's not in it, it's not energized, and it's lacking its neshama. It's like a goof without neshama. So when we want to think about learning our Torah and doing our mitzvahs, we have to figure out how to be besimcha. We have to figure out how to be with joy, so that the goof of what we're doing, the body of what we're doing, the Torah and the mitzvah is filled with this energy, this neshama, the soul, and joy is the bottom line. So we want to give ourselves pep talks. Say, and if you're not feeling it, I'm going to, try. And I saw once there's a whole practice of, and it's not just in our Hasidut, in Jewish, but throughout the world, this concept of like smiling, laughing therapy. And it's true. You can animate something within. It creates something where your spirit says, "Oh, I got to smile. Oh, I'm laughing now." So your spirit, that animating soul is like, "I got what to do." And it's a great way of kickstarting. Like you kickstart a motorcycle, you kickstart the joy just by smiling. And I've been actually trying to do this recently, where it's just like I'm walking down the street and I'm just kind of like, look, there's a serious stuff going on. There's like a war going on. There's like our brothers. They're right now on the front lines. Rabbi Lissman said his son hasn't showered in 4 weeks. He's fighting nonstop. He's working nonstop. He took off his boots like once every 2 weeks. I mean, it's like stuff is and so my face is a bit gets drawn sometimes, and I get and then I stop and I smile, and I try and bring out the simcha and joy, so that our learning will be more powerful, and our mitzvahs will be more powerful. So, another idea that the Rebbe the Admor brings, all of the spiritual worlds, and even the level of Hashem's holiness perceived in this world, depend on me. The Nefesh Chaim, I was learning this, is also very strong in this, that basically you have to see yourself as a key. And through all these universes, from above to below, that what I do, what I say, how I act, and these midot, these character traits that we're talking about, these essential character traits, that they actually have this massive impact. We don't see it. We're sitting at 3 guys, 4 guys, 5 guys, 6 guys, 20 guys in a Beit Midrash sitting around, 50 guys, 100 guys, right? Okay. 1 guy. We have no idea what that impact is. We can't. It's like we can't. It's like we say it's above us. It's in these worlds above us that we can't even begin to understand. We can try. We can talk about it and think about it, but it's that beyond words. We have to understand and know and think about it. Another one is make havrutas, because 1 and 1 soul does not equal 2 souls. I'm not good at math, but maybe someone's good at math and can help me, but it's exponentially yoter. It's much, much more. And make realistic goals and keep them with your kodesh. So it's very important to say, here, I have a goal, like thank God, Zachariah, you're making a beautiful, realistic goal of learning I don't know if you're learning daily, or the Masechet, and to make siyumim, and so it's a beautiful thing. And you see how you feel yourself going to a different level by sticking to it.
I had the goal because I was going crazy just being osek and Torah every day. It's like I felt like I was just going there and okay, whatever. I'm osek. I'm here. I'm learning Torah. It wasn't really any commitments. I just had to kind of be there. But to push myself was something that I needed to have.
Hashem should be blessed to keep doing it and to keep going. Chayal, strength to strength. It says there's no rest for the tzaddikim. They're always working from one level to the next, one level to the next, level to the next. So and then he said another thing I like, which is think about when you're in your own holy work, that there's a construction worker getting up early in the sun, building 10 stories, 15 stories high, working. There's guys sweating in the fields. And so to put that same kind of soul power, that nefesh, physical, they're working right now, and our guys are soldiering, literally soldiering, big time. And to put that same kind of effort into our learning, and obviously it's not the same level of physical exertion, but we can focus that energy and kind of use our imagination, our holy imagination, to try and put that kind of effort and connection from all the various parts of our soul into our work. And to realize too that what we're building here is not instant. This is a major, we hear this constantly, is that what we're doing is a long-term project. And it's like, actually, the building is a great example. In Jerusalem, they're building all the time, these huge buildings all over the place. And I see them building level by level by level. And I'm thinking, all of a sudden, 2 years later, there's this huge building. But how does it start? They break the dirt, one day at a time. They start bringing the metal and this and the cement, and they're building one level, and next level, and next level, and next level. We're on page 3. And so to know that we're doing a long-term process. And the Admor says like this, it's a klal. The amount of effort spent for a goal is proportionate to the worth of the goal. So anything that's easy money is not easy. It's the stuff that you work hard and earn that has value for you. And this is especially true with the holy. The holy, it's all about hard work and labor, and it pays off more than anything else in the world. So our purpose is to confront and overcome challenges. Our purpose is to confront and overcome challenges, whether intellectual, physical, and so forth. And so when they come, oftentimes they're actually a gift. Hashem at that moment is giving you an opportunity to go to another level. And then sometimes when things are going really smooth and easy, it's also a gift. It's to build up your energy, get pumped up for that next challenge. Baruch Hashem. We go back to Jewish martial arts, spiritual judo. I'm always going, which one I always get up belts. There's no such thing as like the black belt, because it just keeps going and going and going and going. I don't know how many colors there are, but infinity. And so we were talking about the attribute, the midot, of being energetic and not lethargic. And so, if we ever are in that moment of feeling that lethargy and laziness, remember, your alacrity, your result, and all your energy for running and getting things done has been hijacked. It's not really you. It's not the real you. The real you is you're full of power and energy. It's just right now the other side is using it, is hiding it from you. I learned something interesting that in the Zohar, from the Zohar, I don't read the Zohar, but from different sources that bring the Zohar, that there's always a balance. So in the holy, parallel to the holy, there's something in the klipa, in the shells, this parallel force of the same nature, and it's always trying to conquer the Kodesh. So where someone's feeling laziness, knows there's this great energy being right at that moment, being like kind of wrestling match and being conquered by the laziness. But underneath that laziness is great energy. So it's just about flipping it around. Okay, so now the next trait we're going to talk about is, this is going to be on the top of the list. It's one of the, I don't know if you remember David Letterman, he had his top 10 lists. So like top 10 things that are harmful. I think it's 1 or 2 up there. Anger. Anger is really bad. So inside of it, there has to be a powerhouse of potential for good. Let's not forget. So it says in Masechet Shabbat that one who gets angry is like he's worshiping idols. And this is for worshiping idol. Avodah Zarah is the opposite of Eino Milvado, of Shema Yisrael, that Hashem is one. And so this is one of the idol worship is one of the things that someone should die for. Most of the mitzvahs we don't die for. We live, and I mean, what's the not mitzvahs, but the averot, the negative prohibitions, that most of them, if someone's life's at risk, they will do the negative prohibition, but there's 3 we don't do, and one of them is idol worship. So this is not idol worship, but it's like idol worship. So one of the things that Admor, we're talking about very practical advice now. One of the things that Admor says is, most times after the fact that something goes down, that we reanalyzing it. Oh, I just lost it, man. He says, no, we need to be preemptive striking. So we need to be thinking about it before, so we don't do it.
How do we know when we're going to change it?
Well, that's the thing. You don't know, so you plan ahead of time so that when it's starting to come, then you're ready to stop it.
Okay.
So it's like
it's right at the beginning of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes if you there's a lot of years to live in this world, and it's impossible that it will not happen to you one snap and you're gonna be lose.
Hey, if you can prevent it 30 times and lose it 1 time, it's a lot better than losing it 40 times or 31 times. I told you I'm not good at math, but I hear what you're saying. But I would relate that also to the lesson. One of the lessons I actually love from the Chafetz Chaim is that there's mitzvahs, there's prohibitions, and every one is without value. What's it mean without value? It means it's so valuable. There's nothing in this world that can give value to it. So every one you do is priceless. So even if you do all your training and for 1 time it works, it was all worthwhile. You train every day for hours. For 1 time, I could have got angry and did it. It even says in the Gemara that the whole world was made for someone who wants to say something, the anger is welling up, he wants to say something, and he swallows it.
Wow.
The whole world was made for that moment. Okay? So we're talking about, this is high stakes stuff here. And so I hear and I agree, and but we also have to know that it is possible to get to the level of a tzaddik. We're kadosh. That's what earlier in the show we're talking about. We are really kadosh, and everything that's not kadosh about us is not the real us. It's fog, it's limitation, it's this other side wrestling us, and that we can win. We can absolutely. You have to know that we can win. And how do you know? You can look at other people that have won, and we know people that have won. That's the beautiful being in Jerusalem. That's the beautiful being in our yeshiva. We can look around and see people that have won this battle, and it's possible. From whatever background, from whatever who we are, whatever our personal character trait makeup is, Hashem said, you can do this. Is it hard? Yes. Is everyone doing it? No, because then it wouldn't be a big deal, right? It's not the big deal. Is what not everyone can do. Not everyone can do it, but it's not easy to do. I want to correct myself because everyone can do it. So, decide that whenever you feel that anger percolating, that you're going to say a planned word of Torah. You have your word of Torah ready to go. It's like there's a bat phones, there's all kinds of, we talked in the first lecture about having our own personal weapons. The Admor says each of us needs to make their own personal weapons for this war. And so each one knows what speaks to them. Some word of Torah, and not only that you have some learning to go with it. It is a very deep psychological idea here. What's the idea? First of all, the Torah is not from this world. It's kadosh, it's holy. And so by saying it, that may protect you from the invasion of anger. Just saying those holy words may be enough of a shield. But also, what is anger? Anger is a temporary, spur-of-the-moment insanity based on a specific issue. A lot of times it has to do with our ego being hurt, or I want something, I'm not getting it, or I'm tired, and I'm grumpy, and then someone's bothering me. And a lot of times it has to do with something of our body, something like that. It's just, I'm irritated, or insecurity, or something like that. And so, at that moment, it's that temporary insanity, there's no rationality. Totally irrational. And it even says that at that moment, there's a foreign soul that invades us. I call it like this pirate that's taking over our ship, this comes in with yeah. I don't even want to imagine a Houthi invading me, let's just say pirate, because I don't want to say a Houthi pirate, like some Houthi pirate is coming in me, and he's like, he's going to be on CNN, like, I've taken over Yosef.
Rather be Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, from the good old pirates, So once you distract your mind with the Devar Torah and pondering it, It could be even like Shema Yisrael. And some ideas about Shema Yisrael. I'm an Ed in this world. I'm an Ed for Hashem, and there's one God, and whatever it may be. And then that may even lessen the short-term insanity, so that rationality will sneak back in. I mean, oftentimes, like, I heard from my friend, I haven't got angry ever, but my friend was telling me that when he gets angry, a good friend of mine, close friend of mine, when he gets angry, that afterwards, there's always this thing of like, oh my God, I can't believe I acted like that. Like, I was like nuts. Like, what was that? Like, and that's now your rational voice is like all back in charge. The pirate he's like handcuffed, he's thrown overboard, and he's handcuffed and thrown overboard. Let him sink, no more, kill him. But that rational moment, and so the idea then, if as we're percolating, before the insanity totally takes over, we have in our mind. This is some deep stuff from the Rebbe on this. On the Rebbe on this, we have in our mind ready to go. And this is what the Rebbe, the Admor says about this. When we were kids, I used to fall out of bed. It was like you wake up on the floor, like, whoa, what happened? And all of a sudden, one day you stop falling out of bed. What happened? It's just and so it says it like this: when one trains himself in something constantly, it can become part of his internal knowledge and way of acting, even when he's not aware of it. It becomes part of his subconsciousness.
You can train your subconscious.
You can train your subconscious. So thank God, most of us, Hashem blessed us, most of us, thank God, that when we get angry, we don't act on it violently. I mean, there's some people, that do, God forbid, but normative people, it's not like, I'm angry, but, however, losing it verbally can happen quite often. It's a lot easier for that boundary, that like falling out of the bed boundary about losing it verbally when someone gets angry, can happen often. And then that can be Lashon Hara, Motzi Hashem Ra. There can be such destruction from that anger and those words that we learn. It's not for our class right now, but the power of our speech. The world was created with speech, as it were, and our speech creates worlds. And so that's for another class, but it's directly related to controlling our anger so things don't spill out of us. So the Admor writes like this: and after he spends time thinking and making a conscious decision not to get angry anymore, then even when his nerves fray, and he's not consciously aware of the concept he has internalized, all those ideas, I'm going to say the Devar Torah, I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to ponder it, and my rational mind is going to stay in control. But his inner understanding will restrain him. That inner consciousness that he's been training will restrain him, and he won't even lash out verbally, despite the fact that his anger has been aroused. So he won't necessarily be able to stop that anger, but he'll train himself. Even when I get angry, it doesn't just come pouring out of my mouth. Just like doesn't throw a punch, he's not going to start. For example. So then he brings something down, another idea. And this is another weapon in the utility belt, but this is for special circumstances. So, I've already blessed. This is for special circumstances. They say there's someone that's really, it's like, they're right, you're right, you guys, it's just happening, this, that. It's all about tension, and I don't want to say the word, but I'm going to say it, ready? There may be even some levels of H-A-T-E. I said it. H-A-T-E. Haz v'shalom. So he says like this. Write a letter. Maybe you guys have heard this before. I don't know about all these techniques. But he said, write a letter and let him have it. Let him have it. And then guard the letter. Make sure no one else sees the letter. But then read it to yourself. One day, another day, a third day. And what's going to happen? Your inner goodness is going to be like, really? Oh, come on. He's not that bad. I mean, remember that one time you saw him help that wounded dog? I mean, he's actually a nice guy. And like the fact that he ruined your lawn and maybe, I don't know who punched the hole in your tire. You don't know it was him. You don't know it was him. Give him the judgment. Yeah. Give him the benefit of the doubt. And Oh, come on. You know what? Bake him a cake. Bake him a cake.
Okay, I don't know.
Bake him a cake. And all of a sudden, you just want to bring peace to the world. Look, it's a bit. I did experience something like this, where thank God, it wasn't exact. I didn't bake him the guy a cake, and it wasn't to the level of HATE, but there was some tension, and I like actually write it down, but I thought about it. I thought about its good attributes, and it worked out. So that's the technique, and the next thing, be very, very humble. Humble, anav, and this was Moshe Rabbeinu. He was very, very humble.
Nobody's more humble than me, okay?
Yeah, exactly. There's a joke I heard about from a certain Hasidut where there was a young guy, he getting started, and he's sitting there in the study hall pouring out his heart, and two veterans are in the back listening to the guy pour out his heart, two buddies, and this guy is like, I'm nothing, I'm absolutely nothing. What am I? I'm nothing. You're everything. I ain't all me about dough. I'm nothing. And the guys in the back up, look who thinks he's nothing. That's not I think that's a Rav Arush joke maybe. So speaking of Rav Arush, Rav Shalom Arush, I had the Baruch Hashem, I had the beauty of reading his, the merit of reading his books about faith and peace in the home and so forth. And he's got a little niggin, a little thing he sings. So I should do a little quick one for you. He goes like this: Lo magir li klum, lo magir li klum, lo magir li, lo magir li, lo magir li klum. Toda rabba lecha, Hashem yibarach. Toda lecha Hashem, Hashem yibarach. And what's the idea? He says, I don't deserve anything. I don't deserve anything. Basically, it's all a gift. We were created, and everything we're created for is a gift. And now here's this is the rub, including the challenges and including even the really painful challenges. But that's a very, very high level. And I'm talking about the simcha therapy. I've actually seen Rav Arush put himself through the simcha therapy. And get the smile going and the laugh going. You can just see his soul animate. And it's like the light comes into his face. So Baruch Hashem. I don't know what to talk about. I think I'm gonna talk about that. I'm gonna throw this in because I think for me it was like very interesting. So I hope it'll be interesting to you. Talking about this issue of within even the darkness is really just hidden light. And so we say in the morning the blessing before the Shema, and there's just as I don't know how much you guys have learned about these different things. I'm just starting to learn myself, but there's basically like 4 spiritual worlds. It's made up of all kinds of other subliminal worlds, but the first one is Asiyah, is the world of action, and then the word of Yitzirah is formation. That's the next level, and then the next level is Bria, that's creation. And then the next level is Atzilut, and that's the highest worlds, and it's above sort of definition. And so each of the lower worlds has a bit of overlap with the world before it, and that's the neshama, the soul of that world. So the soul of the world of action, which is the world that we're in, the soul is the world of Yitzirah, and so forth and so on. So that's background for this next idea. Excuse me. A little bit under the weather. I'm gonna step off camera for a second. All right, back. Okay, so the blessings before we say Shema in the morning. The first blessing we say Yotzer Or U'Boei Choshech. Now, what we just learned, Yotzer, meaning the word of Yitzirah, is a lower world than Bria. Boe. So he's fashioning light, and he's creating darkness. So the lower world he's doing light, and the higher world he's doing darkness. It's the same question we talked about, the same idea we talked about earlier. Huh?
I kept quiet. I was going to say,
No, it's the same idea. So, thank you for letting me do the big finish. So,
From last time.
yeah. So, basically, I want to see the way that the way the Rebbe Slonin said it. That there is darkness that is really great light, but it's such great light that it blinds and sees as darkness to those who are below, who aren't on that level. So most of us are not on the level. I mean, I'm not on the level of being in a real hardship and seeing the actual hidden goodness in that hardship. But Rabbi Akiva was. Rabbi Akiva stood at the destruction of the second temple. And we just experienced several months ago, one of the worst destructions of our people. But it's hard to even think about. But the destruction of the second temple was on a higher scale, not just because of the temple, but the number of Jews, the number of life that was lost, and the terrible destruction that happened to the people. With all that being said, Rabbi Akiva stood and saw a fox come out of the Holy of Holies, the burning, and the rabbis, the Hachamim, these tzaddikim, sages, were crying, rightfully so. And Rabbi Akiva laughed. It's mind-boggling. So Rav Rosenblum in Bnei Brak, that's where I heard this. He brought down this big idea that Rabbi Akiva is one of the four that went into the Pardes, the highest levels, all the different levels of Torah, and came out whole. And so he got to the 50th level. At the 50th level, he was able not just to know, because I see the destruction, I also know there's going to be redemption, but he was able to experience, to live the redemption inside of the destruction. The hidden light in the darkness, he was able to live. And so, while most of us aren't on that level, we have a mitzvah from our sages, which says we bless on the visually, externally difficult with the same level that we bless on the good. Atov mativ for the good, abuch nayin emet, on the things that are, someone passing, God forbid, or other destructions. So that was for the point of, what did I connect that to? Sorry. Right. This is the idea of that that it's all a gift. That within even the things that are the darkness, there's some hidden goodness inside of everything. But like we said, it's a very, very high level. So now we're going back to our another key point. So now we talked about the background of faith, how this works with a foundation for our character traits, some general principles. And we talked about two specific character traits of lethargy and how to be motivated. We talked about different techniques for dealing with anger. So now we talk about a key point, which is I am free. I am free. I'm not a prisoner to these things that feel like they're riding me. So the Admor says, in his words, translated, a Jew's whole ability to remove evil from his inner self, to transform his negative character to a positive one, and to make himself holy, lies in the capacity for free choice that Hashem gave us. Animals are compelled by instinct in all that they think and do, in every aspect of their lives. But Hashem gave man the gift of choice. Why? In order for him to choose between the path that leads to life and, God forbid, the path that does not. That's the battle going on in our hearts. That's what we're doing when we come here. We're in the training grounds right now. We talked earlier about the yeshiva, and Torah is for us to fix and bring to fruition, to bring out all the holiness of our traits, our character traits, our midot, the measurement of our spirituality. That's why the Admor talks about, if you're learning Torah and you're doing your things, but you're not feeling a change in yourself, And you have to readdress your spirit, the connection of your spirit to your Avodat Hashem. And that's one of the prime things that we're trying to work on. So he brings another teaching here about this issue. That more teaches that someone who wants to choose between two paths needs to be above and outside them. The Midrash says, Ashrei le'ish shehu gavoa mipesha'o, oy lo le'ish shepesha'o gavoa mimenu. Fortunate is the person who is above his sins, and woe to the person whose sins are above him. Meaning, and he brings a beautiful mashal here, if someone's drunk, then they don't have the clarity of mind to stop drinking. His mind is clouded and influenced by the alcohol. So too, the Admor says, how can someone overcome himself and choose a holy path of Kedusha, of holiness, when his soul is filled with animal instincts that pull him down, and his mind is plagued by the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, convincing him that bad is good and good is bad. I hope no one's thinking about Michael Jackson, but bad. Sorry about that. I'm sorry. Can I edit that out? I'm going to edit that out. Sorry. God, it's going to go in I'm going to take that out of there. Sorry. I should. God, I said this. Oh, sorry. Anyway, I have what to work on. We all have what to work on. Thank God. So we need times when we elevate above ourselves in the whole world, as it were. Jewish meditation, to look down on ourselves from a higher plane of spirituality. How do you do that? That's a good idea. So, I think we talked earlier that there's times, the mistake that the Rebbe was talking about is often, when do we check ourselves out? When we messed up, right? Like someone's like, oh man, I shouldn't have done it like that. Wow, I really messed up. And you start thinking, oh, I got to do better at this, better at that. He says, no. When everything's hunky-dory, when everything's going really great, when you're spiritually, you just did a big hesed. Someone called you, I need your help. Can you help me out? Yeah, I got you. Oh, you feel good. The light's over you. Or you come out at tefillah and you go, I just feel like connected to God. It was like, I feel amazing. At that moment, that's when you analyze yourself and say, where am I at? And he said that it's like checking the chametz, the leaven with the candle. At that moment, you use the light to check yourself out. So Jewish meditation would be that you can do it at fixed times as well. There's hitbodedut. These times when you can go out to the forest, you can do the Beit Midrash, wherever you want to be. You talk it out, check it out. And you try to take yourself out of the daily life, and then you look at yourself from above. I don't know if that helps, hopefully. So I like to use the example also we're in a spiritual gym to build our holy muscles, right? How does the gym work? Slow, dedicated, with the trainer, how to do it right, and you slowly build yourself up. And as you build yourself up, and guess what? It's really boring if you're really strong to go use 20-pound weights. You know what I'm saying? You need more and more and more. That's from high to high. You build yourself up. You want more, and that's good. The desire for more in the materialism is bad. The desire for more in spirituality, more, it's great. It's the greatest thing you can ask for. It's one of the greatest blessings there is desire for more and more closeness, more and more spirituality. So, at this moment, I'm going to do another spoken word. Here we go. And this is on the idea of refining our character traits. So we need to know something, though, before we hear the spoken word. That the moon doesn't have its own source of light. When we see the moon glowing... Moon. Right, I hope I'm right. I think I'm right. I checked it on Google. So... Huh?
Might be a nuclear reactor.
Yeah, okay. So the moon basically reflects the sun. And so that's the topic here. Purify my life, purify my life, purify my life so I can shine like the moon. Nation of sparks gonna light a fire. Purify the world and take it higher. This is not the X Factor. This is not an idol show. But it is about your voice, the one that's got to flow. Purify my life, purify my life, purify my life, so I can shine like the moon. So that's the amen. Look, I lived a long time in New Orleans, so I have to pick up the sparks, picking up sparks and trying to elevate them. So, so what's that voice we're trying to hear? What's the voice we're trying to hear? Pure, so my voice can flow. Which voice? Who am I? Which voice are we talking? We're talking about the voice of our neshama, the voice of our soul that's buried within us, and that's what we're working on. We're trying to bring that to the surface. The soul that you gave me is pure, 100%. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring that voice into everything we say, think, and do. That's our goal. That's really the end of the day. And that's what the Torah comes to help us to perfect our character traits, so that voice is our voice. That's our dominant voice. Sorry. Okay. So this is some paraphrasing of the Admor, and then we have a direct quote. We talked about negative traits, right? But at the same time, we need to go deeper. We always need to go deeper. If you remember last class, we were talking about kayaking. You get stuck in a hydraulic that spins you around until you drown. The real deal. So too, the world can get us stuck and spin us around until we drown. How do we get out of it? You got to swim deeper. You got to go deeper, 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 deeper. So, let's go deeper. Human intellect sees things superficially. Remember, what is science? What is science? Science is using physicality to study physicality. It's just a one big measurement of physicality, however you want to look at it. That's its own definition of itself. So we see negative traits as intrinsically negative. But the Baal Shem Tov, Zecher Tzadik Lebracha, and his holy students, Lights of Israel, taught us that our character traits are intrinsically holy, have their source.
Sorry.
No, that's good. Baruch Hashem. They're intrinsically holy. Okay? They have their source in the heavens, in the upper worlds, and make their way down to this world. It is only in this world, in our physical body that exists in this world, that their appearances change. They appear to be negative if we don't know how to use them properly. It's like clear water in a dirty glass. From the outside, the water looks dirty. Just letting that sink in, you know. So the idea is basically, ultimately, inside of us is this pure, beautiful character traits. Each one of us. And so like Rob Begun would say, you mean him? That guy? That guy over there? Maybe me, I get it, but like that guy who's, it can't be, you're kidding me? Yes, all of Am Yisrael. Okay?
So for example, you could use that energy of that anger that you were talking about and use it to study Torah.
Yeah, we were talking about the first class, we were talking about passion. He brings that in the first class. He was talking about to teachers and fathers, and we're also our own teachers and fathers. He says you can see a student in the class who's just a mess. You know, he's angry, or he's stubborn. He doesn't listen to anything you say, and he's driving you crazy. And you can write him off. And there's a nice guy who sits there. He's a tzaddik. He says, I love that guy. He's my favorite student. He says, no, that guy, when he gets, you just keep teaching him in his way, giving him and working. You don't want to snuff out his passion. You just want to redirect that passion. And when he gets older, he's going to be that firebrand who doesn't settle for anything. He takes his avodat Hashem to the utmost, and he's not wishy-washy. He says the word, I don't know what the word he was, but the translation was wishy-washy. He's not wishy-washy. This or that, it doesn't matter. No, fire. And so, Reish Lakish. Exactly. Reish Lakish was he was the head of the mafia. He was like a big robber. He was the head of the robbers. And then Rav Yochanan discovered him and said, this guy. And actually he's going to be we're going to learn about another midah, a character trait, not in this class, but of determination. And he's going to be like one of the prime examples of determination, and a very deep Torah on that. So if I don't say that, and you're here, remind me please to say that. So there's an idea about this too of a nice mashal for this idea is that there was someone who was rich, and that more brings this. Someone who was rich, and this happened like in 2008. You know, people were rich, and they woke up the next day and they were poor, like they lost it all. I mean, they were like multi-millionaires in that whole crash, and then they woke up and they were like in debt and didn't have any positive assets. And if that person, after a little, starts thinking of themselves, I'm poor, I'm a poor person, and they envision themselves as a poor person, then they might actually start settling for their situation. But if that person says, wait a second, I'm a mogul. I was a mogul, and I'm going to work to be a mogul again. I'm going to get back there. Then he's got a chance of getting there. So you have to understand who we are. We are a powerhouse. You are a powerhouse. Each of you are powerhouses of holy, creative, positive, good energy containing a spark of godliness, mamash. Really, and that's a direct quote from the Tanya, from the Bala Tanya. It says, you have a spark of godliness in you, mamash. Really. So everything else about us, that oftentimes I drive myself crazy, and then there's a problem. You can't leave yourself behind. You take yourself wherever you go. So it's like you're literally driving yourself crazy, but it's like, get out of here. I'm sick of you.
I need a break.
I'm like driving myself. I'm with me. What can I do? So we have to fix our midot. There's no other choice. You can't divorce this guy. He's with us all the time. So Hazar Shalom. We have to change him. We have to work with him. The same thing with Am Yisrael. We're one person. There's no such thing of like, if we leave them behind, we'll be okay. We have to look at ourselves as one entity. And so it's not like the famous example, I'm going to cut off my arm because it's driving me crazy. Of course not. You need it. So we're all together. We're all united. We have to remember that. This is a Klali lesson to the cloud. So everything else about us is really either an expression of that emet, of that truth within us, or blockage. Right? So how do we fix the blockage? We have to work with it. So it says in Pirkei Avot, "Aseh ratzono kiratzono, kedei she'aseh ratzoncha kiratzono." What's that mean? So make God's will your will. And what's that ultimately? Those holy character traits, those holy inner character traits that sparks inside of us, that's God's will. That's residing within us. So if you make His will your will, and all that other stuff, like I like this and I like that, and I can't help it, this is me, and blah, 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 all that stuff, let's take that inner will and get that out of the way, and make that's my will. That's getting that, we talked about getting our, our animating soul, our nefesh, excited in things, right? To recreate our nefesh, our animating soul with that inner Holy Spirit, that inner will, and make that my will. That's what I want. There's nothing more I want than to get up for the early Nate's Midian.
No.
Yeah. And I'm going to go get up earlier than that and go to the mikvah.
Oh,
I can't, it's the thing, I want it more than anything in the world. We're in the gym. Not everyone's going to experience that tomorrow morning, but we're in the gym. We're working slowly going to get there, God willing.
So that voice that says, oh, but this anger, it's real, it's who I am, it's true. That's it.
Oh, yeah. That's that crazy Houthi pirate trying to hijack you. I don't know if you were here. We're talking about the Houthi. Yeah, so that's.
He's Houthi now. He's confirmed.
Well, that's Zachariah. Zachariah said that. I couldn't. That was from. Yeah. So if you make His will like your will, so He'll make your will like His will. So once you get the ball rolling, He's going to help you. Okay? And then this is the beautiful teaching of the Admor. He says, "What's closer to Hashem than that? What's closer to Hashem than that? Hashem's not out there somewhere. He's right here. When I break it down and I get my holy midot on fire, there's nothing closer to Hashem than that. There's nothing closer to Hashem than that." So the Admor describes in the Chovot that we need to hear our soul. And this is what he says with translation. It's groans of suffering and songs of joy. We need to hear to its cry of triumph when it progresses and the uproar when it falls. But who hears its yearning and who listens to the convulsions of his unfortunate neshama. Sorry, this is a question. I'm going to go back and read that properly. Who listens to the convulsions of his unfortunate neshama, his unfortunate soul? You listen. You will be awakened of yourself. Ideas, advice, and desires will come to you of their own accord. And through them, you will rouse yourself to spirituality. We were talking earlier that when you think about things, meditate on things, then your soul gets more wrapped in them, and then you actually have understanding well beyond your rational understanding. The more you engage your neshama, your ruach, your nefesh, all elements of your soul that are inside of us, the more that we can go well beyond our barriers, and then take levels and levels and levels. So this is from the Eish Kodesh, and this was from when he was in the Warsaw Ghetto, and this was on the Shabbat of Parsha Bereshit. And this is what he wrote: when Chesed, loving kindness, is of the revealed sort, meaning that God is bestowing an abundance of kindness, meeting all the needs of the Jewish people, that is Chesed before the eyes of all Israel. However, when the Chesed is nistar, when it's concealed, when the kindness is concealed, then at the beginning, it is only Chesed in the eyes of God, as it were. Later, when God rescues the Jewish people, it becomes Chesed and kindness also in their eyes, because then they can see that the Chesed was hidden. They can see the Chesed that was hidden in the Hester, the concealment. That's the idea we were talking about earlier.
He wrote that during the Holocaust?
He wrote that when he was in the Warsaw Ghetto. And so that was in 1941. So it was in the middle of his time in the Warsaw Ghetto. Why I wanted to say that is because now we're in a time of we see great lights, but we also see a lot of Hester, concealment. I mean, I always want to bring this to every time we talk. Right now, our souls, our brothers and sisters, children, are right now in the hands of Makshimam Hamas. Right now, they're holding them in tunnels and moving them around, and God knows, I don't even think about it. And
nobody's called it in. Nobody from Gaza's called in. Any tips on where the hostages are?
I'd take one step further, and I don't mean to be political, but like, if Bin Laden was like hanging out in a hotel in one of these countries in the Gulf states, I don't think that would be acceptable to the United States. I think probably they'd say, hey, give that guy and we're coming to get him.
Mexico fires 5,000 rockets. So actually, you have to do it like proportionally to how many people there are. So like
right now, the equivalent of Bin Laden, worse, is sitting there, and no one's saying, hand the guy over. I can't understand it. I can't. So there is a level of Hester Panim. There's a level of Hester Panim, but we have to understand and say, within this, we know there's goodness. And with that, we're going to be sameach in our avodah. We have to smile and be sameach in our avodah, and be happy to know and think about all the revealed kindness that's going on, the revealed goodness that's going on, and know that the stuff that's Hester, within it, there's some deep light that eventually will be exposed, and eventually we'll know that it was like the Rebbe said, that it was that it's going to be there's somehow it's this hidden kindness, and later when God rescues the Jewish people totally, it becomes Hesed in their eyes also, kindness in their eyes also. So on this note, I just want to say for next class we're going to be talking about tefillah, some other character traits, please God. And you should definitely come. It's going to be amazing. But I just want to say, soul warriors, each of you guys are soul warriors. And I'm not saying that lightly. I mean, we're talking all about these big ideas and practicalities, how they work together. And we should walk away from here thinking of ourselves, each of us, as mamash a warrior, a soul warrior. And that we should strengthen each other. We should strengthen all of them, Israel. And we should have full redemption speedily in these days. Mamash. Zat Hashem.